Welcome to the Leaderonomics Show. I'm Audrey Tong. In this special episode today, we speak to HR guru Dave Ulrich and R.A. Thiagaraja, CEO and founder of KPintar Sdn Bhd. Join us together with Roshan Thiran as we find out more about the HR challenges in Malaysia and how to overcome them.
Welcome to this special segment. I'm with Thiaga and Dave. We're going to talk a little bit about the state of HR in Malaysia. So maybe, Thiaga, we can start with you. Tell us a bit about your interpretation or your kind of sense of what HR is and what are some of the challenges that HR is facing as a profession in Malaysia.
All right. I would categorize the three different organizations. One is a multinational corporation, one is a local listed organization, third is a small medium enterprises. So multinational corporation, they had opportunity to practice a lot of best practices, new strategies, innovative strategies, which they brought it back from the headquarters from Europe and stayed in Australia.
Yep, so it's a copy and paste.
Copy and paste, and they do some customization to meet the local needs, cultural sensitivity. Whereas the local listed companies, there are companies that are very proactive in terms of giving more important role and accountability to HR. Other than that, I would say largely they are fulfilling the basic requirement. HR as a policing entity, looking to processes, functional, job function, instead of developing the talent within the organization.
So primarily you see HR as an administrative function.
Administrative function.
In most organizations,
yes, most
outside the multinationals.
Outside the multinationals.
And so what are some of the challenges that these companies has?
Right. I would say, in my opinion, two. One is the acceptance of the business leaders of HR contribution in a more strategic business partner.
Okay.
This is one.
So business leaders don't accept them. As a business partner.
Second, I would say the HR fraternity themselves, they need to upskill their knowledge. They need to realize that they need to unleash their potential. Their roles are larger than what they do, the administrative work.
So it's a
competency of the HR practitioners.
Okay.
We can see that from even TalentCorp initiative. When the TalentCorp launched HR certification programs, the take-ups are very low initially. It takes more than a year for the HR fraternity to see the value of getting the certification program.
So potential self-awareness.
Self-awareness. They need to see that they need to develop themselves.
Okay.
Because they are the HR. They organizing and preparing a lot of training schedules, L&D plan for the employees.
Okay.
So but they need to look into they themselves to develop. Third, I would say the small medium enterprises. The medium-sized enterprises, they are looking into developing their people. Whereas the small enterprises, they're still on an early stage of business or 3 to 5 years. For them, HR will become a secondary because survival is a vital. Business continuity is vital. So that's where I see HRDF playing a lot of important role, providing this incentive and guidance and best practices.
Okay.
That's the current state of HR in Malaysia.
Right. So Dave, based on what has been said by Thiaga, what would your take be in terms of advice or sort of suggestions you would offer to the Malaysian HR community to overcome some of these challenges?
Great question. I think there are more opportunities than challenges because I think, first of all, we're seeing for the country to reach its 2020 goals, to move from 28 to 35% in skilled workers, to move from 55 to 65% into a service or knowledge economy, it requires HR issues. It requires talent, leadership, and culture. And so HR professionals in all three companies, MNCs, listed companies, and SMEs, can provide insights about how those companies can help reach those national goals.
So individually as HR leaders in those companies, what should they be thinking about and targeting to do in terms of actions?
Very simple. We've got a lot of research, and it's dangerous to get into the details. But the very simple messages are: number one, build relationships of trust. Be trusted. Be what we call a credible activist. The trust doesn't come because you do what you're asked. It comes because you have a point of view. If you're married, I know my friend is married. Has your wife ever given you advice?
Yeah. Daily, right?
Of course she is. By the way, you trust your wife. I trust my wife of 40 years, but she's an activist. She tells me things that other people may not tell me, and I accept that because I know she cares. HR people should build trust, and then the trust allows us to be active. Strategic positioner. Know the business well enough that you can position it to win in the market. And then third, managing paradox. Navigate the tensions in a business.
Okay, so one of the things we have in Malaysia is agencies like TalentCorp and HRDF and others that role is to drive, or take away some of the obstacles to the HR challenges that you play. Do you think these guys need to play different roles or more important roles, or are they doing their roles?
I would say they're doing their role, but I would say they got to be more aggressive.
Do you think there's a gap in the market where the government needs to play a...
Government need to play a role, because to achieve skilled workforce, 35% skilled workforce by 2020, three parties need to play important role. One is the government, either directly the government or direct through the agencies. Second is the employers. Third, the employee themselves. All three of them need to see the importance of acquiring skills, knowledge. If one party don't support, don't buy in the value on this initiative, it's going to be a failure. So I would say TalentCorp, HDRF probably need to engage with the industry, share with them the value of upskilling their workforce, value of building HR capability. When HR start to realize and business leaders start to realize the value of acquiring knowledge and skills and certification, then they will buy in.
Okay.
I would only add one thing, and your comments are great. You have government, you have industry, employers, you have the employee. The fourth stakeholder, because my background is education.
Education.
And I don't think it starts at a university. If you have multiple ethnic groups, as Malaysia does, some groups feel disadvantaged, and by the time they get to the university, it's too late. We need to build education early, in the homes and in the education, so that young people have knowledge and skills that give them choice. So government, industry, education can work to help people learn all the way through.
So you'd add schools
Great
to that.
insights. I thought your insights were terrific.
So, and Dave, I know a number of years ago you were involved in a leadership challenge where you had to go about with your church, I think, to execute on a project. And you mentioned some time ago, I remember what you said, that it's very hard to do what you talk about. At execution, it's not as easy as the theory.
Yeah.
And I think that's some of the challenges that we have in Malaysia. We understand that this is what needs to be done in terms of a theory, in terms of a framework, in terms of the role of HR, but executing it is a painful role. What sort of advice would you give, in terms of really, I guess, pulling our socks or getting our hands dirty to make sure we are able to translate the models into reality?
I think you're so right. A friend of ours, Steve Kerr, has a formula that's great. Effectiveness equals quality times acceptance. In execution, the quality is the idea. What needs to happen? A is the acceptance. And acceptance means we have to involve people. We have to experiment. We have to learn. We have to grow. We have to try. And that acceptance piece is where I think a lot of the key execution comes from. Some companies want to say, I want a 100% solution before I act. In today's world, they're never going to get there. I want a quick solution. You may not have a perfect list of interview questions before you start the interview, but you learn, you grow, you act, you experiment. In the psychology world, that's called creating a growth mindset. Can we constantly learn and grow from the work that we do? And for me, that's kind of the assumption of great execution.
So to have that growth mindset versus a scarcity mindset, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And if you look at Malaysia, I mean, if you were to advise the industry as a whole, the HR industry, what sort of advice would you give the industry?
They need to realize learning continues. We learn, we need to unlearn, we need to relearn. As long as we implement that, in my personal opinion, learning continues, a growth mindset. Because sometimes when we speak to some of the experienced HR practitioners, probably they've been doing the job for 10 years, 15 years. Quite a number of the time they feel they have learned everything. It doesn't happen that way. Because industry constantly changing.
They think they've reached an optimal level.
Yeah, industry constantly changing. I like to say that most of the time we create permanent structure in impermanent world. Things around us constantly changing, but in our mindset, our belief system, our value system, the way we do things, we are fixed. Then what will happen to us?
Okay.
Competitors will go faster than us. We lose the business opportunity, business sustainability. We may lose the talent. So HR leaders and business leaders, as long as they have this mindset whereby I learn, unlearn, I relearn, I think it's a growth mindset, as Dave has mentioned.
And so you advocate this is something as an industry we need to hold on to.
Certainly.
Okay. And is there any other obstacles that we have as a HR fraternity?
I would say one, HR themselves have this mindset, growth mindset, learn, unlearn, and relearn. I think
everything
they will
will
grow.
So Dave, then how do we overcome this obstacle that we have in terms of this mindset being set in place?
First, I think we have to understand what it is. The research on this is by a woman named Carol Dweck at Stanford. Now, really quickly, she took young children and she gave them puzzles to solve. And they got increasingly difficult. Some got frustrated and they quit. Some said, that's interesting. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to solve it. That's the growth mindset. We want to build that into our employees. We want to encourage curiosity,
Yes.
learning. Grit is
yeah.
another term that's used a lot. We want to encourage those sets of ideas. We found in our research the single biggest predictor of long-term leader success is learning agility. It's the same thing.
Yes.
If you're going to succeed, you might even start in one company and move from an NBC business to another business, and then move to another country, and then move to another country as a TV commentator. You're constantly learning and growing. And that's what makes life joyful. And it's also what we want to create within our companies.
Absolutely, great. And final thoughts on this topic, is the HR space in Malaysia, for anything to share with our viewers?
They're going to play a significant role for the growth of the industry in Malaysia. We're moving towards services sector. So having more knowledge and skillful workers is vital for a growth of the industry, economy, and the organization. So HR certainly play a very, very vital role, in my opinion.
And Dave, your final thoughts?
Enjoy the effort and fail forward. Fail
Fail
forward.
Fail forward.
Forward and learn always.
Okay.
What would your final thoughts be? You know the HR, you
Yeah.
know the community, you interview brilliant people on your show. What would be your recommendation?
I like the way you put me on the spot all the time. But I think you guys summarized it pretty well. I think as an organization, as a fraternity, we need to move forward. And I think the way to move forward is to unlearn or unblock some of the beliefs that we have that are holding us. I think as a community, we're stuck in the legacies of what we think HR is. The world has moved. Every function has transformed. Finance has significantly from bean counters to who they are today. And I think HR, we have to evolve. And I think you talked about the 4 evolutions of HR, but really to move into that outside in it's a big step. But it starts with little baby steps, and I think we need to make those little baby steps one by one for us to start to see us move.
How
realize
confident are you that can happen in Malaysia?
I think it can. I think there's a whole new generation of leaders that are not stuck in their ways.
Nice.
And I think with CEOs that, every CEO I interview is passionate about their people.
Yeah.
They're passionate about talent.
Nice.
So when you see the CEOs passionate, right, but they're very frustrated with their HR. I was very frustrated with HR when I was in GE, which drove me into HR, because I said, why can't, HR is always a blocker. And we realized that it's not that they are a blocker, they are stuck in some constraint, either a process constraint or a culture constraint or a
Nice.
leadership constraint. Something is
Nice.
constraining them. And I think when we unhook them from these constraints,
Nice.
we start to see them really move forward and be empowered.
Super. So if we can turn their passion into a program or a purpose without becoming bureaucratic,
Absolutely.
maybe we make progress.
Yeah.
Well, with people like you leading that charge, it's a great agenda.
Well.
And people like you leading that charge. What a great team.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thiaga.
Thank you.
Great to have you guys on our show, and we look forward to our next installment of more dialogues with great leaders here on the Leaderonomics Show.